if I bleed tonight, if I am sad tonight, I don't have a job to find. And if I work tonight, if I'm so tired tonight, I'll fall asleep when I'm home, when I'm home. I was just so far from here, focused on my own way, with never looking back to those who lived in fear. There was nothing I could do, there was nothing you said that could make me realize how much black.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Around the Ropes with Jon and Jeff. Guys, we are about to start off probably one of the busiest weeks I can remember in the almost 4 years that the show has been around. And we'll get into that later on, but first, let me introduce you to my co-host, who only lives a hop, skip, and a jump away from Montreal, the one, the only Jeff the Talent. Jeff, what's going on?
Peace. How are you, John? Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you as well.
Good to see you too, my friend. It's been a few days since we chatted last.
Absolutely. Guys, the guest we have on right now, he has not been on the show in a while. It's been some time, but I personally feel he is the glue that held together the Deadly Sins before Frankie and Ben decided to throw temper tantrums. He is the man, the myth, the legend himself, and the man who's also going to have his own show named after him, as Titan Championship Wrestling presents American Spirit, the Blockz edition, Friday, July 11th at the Ocean County Fair. We'll get into that, and all with our guest this evening, the one, the only, Blockz. Blockz, welcome back to the show. How you been?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be back, and I've been good. It's been a while, and looking to have some fun tonight. So like always. So
yeah,
great.
I would say you know how we are in here. We don't pull any punches.
Even if we did, I'm ready for it all. You know me.
All right, absolutely. But let's get into a little bit. Obviously, we know the Deadly Sins kind of went their separate ways. And I'm just going to bring people up to date since the last you've been on. Did you feel like, that it was time for you guys to kind of go your separate ways at this point?
If I could be honest, no. And the reason I feel like it wasn't is because I feel like we were just getting to the top of where we could have been potential-wise. I understand, every good, course, runs its time. And unfortunately, that's what happened with the Deadly Sins. Everybody in the group, instead of, doing our own aspirations that we wanted, but still keep it that family group thing, egos got in the way and, it took over. And unfortunately, we all had to go our separate ways. Me and Frankie went to war for a few shows there. Me and Ben went to war for a few shows there. The Deadly Sins is always going to be a huge part of something that I was in. Always got love for those guys, no matter what indifferences we have at the moment. It was a fun time, a fun ride. I wouldn't change it. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely have said I wish we could have ran it a little bit longer. But things happen, and who's to say, as DX ever comes around every once in a while, who's to say the Deadly Sins eventually won't be back together eventually one day.
And that was kind of going to be my next question is, do you think this breakup was like a definite, okay, we're never going to get back together? Or like we see in pro wrestling, guys, groups come together and break up. Do you think sometime in the future, Titan Nation could see a possible reunion?
I personally can definitely see that happening. Again, Deadly Sins was a big part of my beginning run at Titan. I mean, I started with Titan, and within a few months we formed the Deadly Sins, and for that whole year and some months we pretty much ran the cards over at Titan until we destructed within ourselves. So I would say never. And I mean, with how competitive we all are. I mean, I can't see why one day we put our differences aside and say, you know what, maybe for the betterment of the fans, this is something we should down the line do again. But time will tell. I mean, it could go either way. I'm happy now with the direction that I'm going in, and I know Frankie's happy with the direction he's going in, and Ben with his direction. So, you know, we're all happy right now, but I never say never. I mean, it's the business, so you can't never say never.
Well, I'll just
that
ask.
is
Let me just finish.
Oh, I was going to ask Blockz, is that kind of something that you've had to kind of navigate with as your career has progressed, you know, egos and just trying to keep things in check? And I'd imagine not just with teams, but with partners or people you're working in the ring against, like just trying to keep everything in check and trying to keep everything in line. Like it must be difficult to walk that fine line at times, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. The good thing thus far is that everybody I've come across has been very professional, and everything's has been really well. I haven't so far have had any instances where it's been something that it's been out of my control. Even with the Deadly Sins, with that breakup, as messed up as it was, and how much I personally would have rathered it to go longer. I was able to control the narrative of that. I was able to control the ending of the Deadly Sins. I got into it not reluctantly in the beginning, and I said the only way that the Deadly Sins will end if I'm not in it is if I dissolve the Deadly Sins, because hey, they came after me so long, and if that's gonna be it, then I'm gonna make sure that it goes down. And me and Frankie were the last two members in it, and that's exactly what we did. But as far as stepping in that ring, I've been blessed to go up against some of the most professional guys this business has to offer, and I'm thankful for that, because I know many guys can't say that, and they deal with a lot going in there. So, yeah, I mean, everything's been good so far, I can say, but I always try to keep it to where it's never something that is not in my control.
Well, and you don't get to the level that you're at, a professional, like without being a kind of like an alpha, right? Like there's not too many like followers who are stars or who have had success like you've had or have had runs like you've had. So that's kind of what I was trying to ask, was like, how does one keep themselves in check? Is it just how you conduct yourself in the locker room, and then you go out in the ring and it's the job, it's the work, and you're professional, like you said, professionalism?
I attribute a lot of that to my time in the Army, to be honest with you. It instilled a lot of discipline in me from younger. So stepping into this business was not too far different, as funny as it sounds, from me being in the Army. You have a lot of different characters, you have a lot of different personalities, and in this business, we're larger than life. So I when I show up to a venue or anywhere, I represent myself and my brand as such, where I have to represent that if I mess up, that not only hurts me, but that hurts the company that I work for, or if something doesn't go right, I have to get the control of the situation to make sure that everything goes right, because at the end of the day, I myself am a brand, and if I'm going to market myself to anybody, I don't want there to be any second guesses or any questions. And I show up, and the guys know when I walk through. It's funny that we talk about this, because a few days ago I actually got hit up by a fellow wrestler and said, "Blockz, you're a little too nice." And I was like, "What do you mean I'm too nice?" When you get back there, you're always saying hi to everybody, what you should do, what I'm saying? But you're too nice to the guys. You're there to be the guy, the top guy. But until you stop being nice, you're never going to get to be that top guy. And I laughed about it, and I told him, I said, the funny thing is that any room that I walk in, everybody knows that the vibe and atmosphere change, because I represent myself as the top guy. It doesn't matter if I'm nice to whoever it is. I love to help out. That's just me. That's just my personality. That's how I've always been. But everybody knows when I get there, I demand the respect that everybody else demands, and I show up with a certain I guess vibe that lets everybody know, okay, business picked up. This is one of the guys that's on the next level, that we want to be there with him. And I'm not even at the level I want to be at, obviously, yet, but if they can look at me like that from now, then as I go further, it's just going to get more and more, and that translates with the fans. You know, I love the fans, but you know, no disrespect to the fans. I'm not there to be their friends. I'm here to entertain them. I'm here to put on a hell of a show to them, tell them a story, get their minds away from this stuff, and come back to a show. I'll sign any autograph you want. I'll take as many pictures with you guys as you want. But they know when they seeing someone like Blockz in the ring, it's not just seeing, oh, hey, there's this guy, and you know, we're gonna go hang out at the bar later. It's like, nah, you got to carry yourself a little differently in this aspect, and I get that, you know, and it's good, but it's also bad at times because I never want a fan to feel that I'm not there for them, because I'm always there for my fans. I got fans hitting me up all the time that I message all the time with, but it's also the point where I see myself at a certain level, and to get myself to that certain level, it's got to be myself and my brand above all. And that's just the turning point that I'm kind of at in my career now, where it's all focused on getting to the E. So,
yeah, and you're very, you know, one thing I always comment, and I see, and John and I talk about this, the successful promoters and the successful performers, if you will, for lack of a better word, or stars, are active on social media and they engage with their fans. But like you said, they still kind of keep that wall up to an extent. But you are very active. I see you commenting on people's comments. You're posting workout videos. You know, you're very active, and you know, you engage with everybody, and that probably helps your brand too, right? I mean, that's kind of what, you know, one of those necessary evils to wrestling in 2025 is that you have to kind of expose yourself, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at the same time, you have to kind of keep that.
And it's funny, like you said, you know, I engage a lot on social media with fans, other wrestlers, promotions. You know, I'll promote shows that I'm not on because I just love, you know, if my guys on something, go out and watch them. You know what I mean? Like, I want everybody to succeed, and you know, with the fans, you know, that's where I got my following from, through social media. You know, I've only been doing this going on 3 years now. And I would say I didn't get my following from being in the ring. I got a certain amount of following, but most of my followings come from other states because of my interaction online. You know, you'll see me message in New Jersey, you'll see me message in North Carolina, you'll see me messaging in Virginia, you'll see me messaging in Texas and Arkansas. So, you know, I try to reach out to any and everywhere of any market to get my name out there, to put my content out there. So when I am able to, you know, work a certain promotion in a certain area, I'm not going in there with the fans like, who's this guy? No reaction. No, you're going to know who I am when I get in there. And by the end of that match, you're either going to love me, you're going to hate me, depending on the way, you know, with the direction of everything for the night. But you're going to leave there with an impression from me because, you know, my job is to make you remember me. And, you know, not to my own horn, but that's something that, you know, like we talked about before going on here, I've learned from so many guys like Flair and Jericho and Austin and Rock and guys like that who know how to get the crowd and have them right there and play with them and then bring them back in and send them on a roller coaster. And, you know, that's something that I love doing. And I feel like I'm getting better at it every time I step in that ring. And, you know, I hope I continue to have the fans enjoy the show. I mean, it seems to be working good. You know, I speak with Billy all the time and let him know, you know, I'm the only wrestler at Titan that has his fans come dressed up as him, which is a cool feeling. So, you know, to see kids in the stands dressed up with my armband, my gloves, my shirts, it's like, yeah, it's a surreal feeling because a couple years ago, I couldn't even imagine this.
But that's how we grew up as fans, though. You know, we grew up wearing Shawn Michaels' glove, and
oh yeah,
I remember getting Shawn's gloves. What else? I got Brett's. I used to get Brett's glasses every time he'd come into the, you know, to the. I'd have to buy the Hitman's glasses. So that's got to be a surreal feeling. Now you're the one who's seeing your gear on kids. Like, that's got to be such a remarkable feeling to get in the ring. How do you not smile and just be so proud of yourself and your hard work and like you like connecting with them? Like, how does that not just like you want to jump out and hug everyone? You know what I mean?
It's definitely difficult. And that goes back to the nice guy part of me. It's definitely difficult because seeing stuff like this is just, again, like we both said, it's a surreal feeling to see them chanting my name and loving what I'm doing and seeing them come dressed up as me and messaging me, hey, are you going to be on this show? Because we're going if you're on that show. And having fans reach out like that is it's an awesome feeling because like you said, we were growing up in that other aspect. I remember being on the other side of that barricade as well and going and being in awe when Triple H came back to Madison Square Garden from his freaking quad injury and seeing the pop he had and saying, one day I'm going to be in that ring. One day that's going to be me one day. And now to live it full circle and have fans, not at that level yet, but one day, but just to have that sort of reaction, it's definitely tough to not just say, hey, come bring it in for a big hug and smile and all of that. But yeah. I right before I go out to the curtain, go out through that curtain, I do a little prayer. I psych myself up, and when that music hits, it's just, I go from this normal guy that you're talking to right here into the Brooklyn Boricua Blockz, and once I hit that curtain, it's just it's game over from there. It's just, I don't know, it's like a different side of me just clicks, and I can't really explain it until I get back from the match and I get to soak in everything after. When I'm back there sitting, it's like, damn, that was an actual real cool feeling, and all the love. And
well, you're gonna hear your music hit this Friday, as John alluded to. You got a big show coming up. Tell us about that.
Whew. Well, this was a surprise. Billy brought it to my attention. We're doing a double night this on July 11th and July 12th at the Ocean County Fair. We're having American Spirit the first night, Blockz edition, and then that's July 11th. July 12th will be the Titan Championship Wrestling Presents.
Yep.
That would be July 12th. Now, I was, this is actually the same night as the First Responders night. So it's a big meaning to me. The military is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. I fought for this country for 14 years. I like I do in the ring, I gave it my all on that field when I was out there, protecting pretty much the country along with all the other men and women that was out there with me. So when it was brought to my attention for this show, I got a little choked up. This will be my third American Spirit, first show ever named after me. So it hit home that not only do I have a show named after me, it intertwines with my military background, with the name of the show, First Responders Night. It's just, it's more than I could ask for. It's not even one of those things where it's like you do so much to get so far in this business and you get the rewards there. This is just something that I've never could have asked for. I never could have imagined. It was one of those, we're proud of you. You served your country. You're doing phenomenal here, and we want to pay homage to you and your time and service that you had. And I mean, I held back a few tears on the phone with Billy when it was presented to me, because how much this, not only this business means to me, but also this country means to me. So it's near and dear to my heart. So before I get choked up and start crying on the show here.
That's that fine line, Blockz. The Blockz the man versus Blockz the entertainer, Blockz the performer. You could see the passion. We can hear it. We could feel it come across the screen. Just how proud of yourself, your hard work you recognize, but also the dedication and the passion. And thank you for your service by all means. We John and I are very supportive of our servicemen and women, and it's a sacrifice, to say the least. And yet here you are continuing to sacrifice your body for the betterment, to entertain,
I got a couple
next generation of wrestling fans, right?
Here. Absolutely.
Well, you've posted some pictures of bruises and bumps and that you've taken.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride. It's definitely been a fun. My body's taking a toll so far. I tell a lot of these young guys, because I'm quite a bit older than a lot of these young bucks in this business. You know, I'm 36, so you know I know I have a short gap window to get to where I want to get to with what I want to do. Not to say it can't happen. Everybody always brings up DDP was 38 when he did it, and I love that they do.
He was, yeah.
You know, and I see that. You know, I feel like I'm like one of these 22, 23-year-old kids, to be honest with you. You know, I've been studying this business for over 25, 30 years, but my body hasn't taken that toll. So now it is, and my body's young enough to take this toll without being too abused. So, you know, I tell these young guys, take care of your body, but just know, you know, this old guy right here, he's gonna take your spot if you leave it open, because I may be old, but I can hang with the
You're
best
smart.
of them.
Well,
Exactly.
and that's funny because we talked before, you know, when we were talking before we went live, we were talking about some of the old shows and everything, and it's funny to think of those wrestlers we grew up watching are now, they look so old, but they are now our age that we are now, and yet we don't look as old as they did because, you know, training's different. You guys are taking care of yourselves a lot different. Workout regimens are a lot safer, I'd say, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, even the most busiest workers aren't working the way that they did back in the 80s.
Very true.
You know, you hear horror stories of like Roddy Piper working 9-10 matches a week. I can't even like think about it. Like that just would blow my mind to have to work that much.
I mean, I had a little bit of an experience my first few months in the business. I trained out of ECPW with and trained by Gino Caruso. So we do a lot of shows over for ECPW, and I want to say the first real travel that we did when I was with them was we went down to Virginia for a taco fest, and in a 3-day span, I wrestled about 12 times in 3 days. It was quite of an experience. I was sore as hell by the end of it, but it was definitely one of those experiences where I gained a lot more respect for the older guys, because this is something normal to them. So it was a great show, great weekend. You know, body was sore at the end, whatever the case is. It's part of the business, but you know, I am definitely glad that the workload has lightened up from there, because there's so many opportunities now for guys to make it and not have to worry about going and working those amount of days to get a decent payday to survive for their family. Now it's more, you know, if you're good, you're gonna get that good payday, and you know, it comes full circle. You know, my body is not as banged up as it should be for my age. Like you said, there's guys our age now that we look at them, they look 20 years older than us, and they look like been through freaking hell. And you know, with eating right, the right workouts, right proper training, and definitely a lot less workload as far as, you know, working the territory, as I like to still call it, because to me they're all still territories. It's been really good. You know, it's been really good.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this now, Blockz. We probably spoken about this before. Obviously, with your time in the military, did that almost prepare you for what you were going to end up enduring through once you became a pro wrestler? Like, almost like, did the military kind of get you ready for the pro wrestling side of things?
I'd say yeah. I definitely say yeah. I definitely say it definitely helped me to navigate myself through the professional wrestling world. It taught me, you know, how to take care of others while I'm out there and make sure everything's always safe, and make sure, you know, I always make sure, you know, anything and everything that needs to be done or needs help or whatever it is, I'm there. You know, I make sure, you know, whatever I can do to help make the show better, I'll do. Whether it's helping production, helping guys with their entrances, making sure they know where the hard cam is at, making sure, listening to guys' matches and saying, hey, that would be a cool spot if you had the guy on the floor cam come over and he got the perfect spot of that. You know, I study the whole aspect of this, and I attribute that to the military. It's given me that fine point to focus on and lock on to key detailed points of everything. So, you know, I definitely say it prepared me very well. But in the world of professional wrestling, I mean, nothing can really prepare you for wrestling, living in it. So, it was a key to it, but being around the right people in this business definitely helped out. You know, speaking with guys like you in the beginning, John, like when I first started this, I fucking, excuse my language, but I barely knew a lot of stuff as far as business wise. And speaking to guys like you, speaking to, you know, other vet guys, and just listening and picking your brain and hearing what you got to say, you know, did a lot for me. And I always keep that, you know, I always say there's no such thing as bad advice. There can be bad critique, but there's never such thing as bad advice. And I always take every advice, even every critique that's bad. I take it as well too. You know, I take whatever I can from it and learn from it and never make that same mistake again, or fix whatever little adjustments needs to be fixed. So that way, you know, and my matches are pretty close to not perfect, but as good as they can get, and entertaining, definitely.
Well, I appreciate that a lot, and I've said this to you before, in person and on the show. And obviously, you know, the traveling that I do when it comes to indie wrestling, and there's very few guys who I ever will sit there and say and put them over every opportunity I can. There's maybe 5, maybe 6, just off the top of my head. And I've said this to you before, you are one of them. Because I always feel like when I've seen you in the ring, it's not like, yes, I understand, you know, there's Blockz the character, but you see a lot of times you see pro wrestlers who play the character, and I feel like with you, you're not playing. And if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of just how I see it.
You're definitely not. You know, like I said it before. I'm 36. I've been watching professional wrestling since 1992. Was it 92? Either 92 or 94. We spoke about this before. The first ever event I ever watched was Undertaker versus Undertaker at SummerSlam. That was the
1994.
There you go, 94. I was 5 years old at that point. So that was my first ever match I could ever remember watching. And
that was about the same age I was when I got into it, yeah.
And I always said that was the perfect match for me to fall in love with this business on, because it had everything in it. It had the drama, it had the entertainment, it had, you know, the Undertaker. The Undertaker himself is a perfect person to watch in this business, and to watch the Undertaker versus Undertaker and try to figure out how that came about. And you had the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and you had Paul Bearer, and just the storyline of everything. It captivated me, and I wanted to know how to tell that story. And I always grew up and, you know, had action figure wrestlers where you would sit there, and I guarantee you, I can have anybody sit with me with any action figure wrestlers that I got, and I will have your ass entertained for a good 2 hours, because everything's storyline with those guys too. Like, I was that deep into this, and to have the 30 plus years of just being able to study it. Well, I would say, yeah, a little under 30, because I've been in for past 3, but a little under 30 years to study it and learn the psychology of it. You know, when I got in this, I knew going into this, if I go in, I can't go in being something that I'm not, because the fans are going to know this. They're going to know if I'm not true to myself. So I'm going in there myself. When I walked into training, they said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Blockz." They said, "What the hell type of name is that?" I said, "That's my name. You're going to see when I step in that ring just who Blockz is." And it was history from there. The fans love it. It's me. What you see here, this is what you get in the ring. Whether I'm a heel, a baby face, this is what you're gonna get. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. As a heel, I turn it up a little bit more. You know, I get a little bit more on the aggressive side. Baby face, I show a little bit more love, obviously. But you know, it's when I step in that ring, it's me, and I'm always looking to evolve. You know, it's always gonna just be me in an evolved level, and I contribute that part itself to Chris Jericho, because watching him and how he evolved throughout his whole career always taught me that you can never stay complicit or the same in this business, because you'll be forgotten about quicker. So, you know, what's out, and I've already have the vision of Blockz for next year and the year after that one. So I'm always preparing further.
It's funny you mentioned Chris Jericho, because that is someone who comes to mind when you think of like a performer that's evolved, probably more than anybody. He's stayed relevant so long because he has evolved. He hasn't stayed the same stale character, Lionheart character he was back in 1995, 96, 97. And and he's not raw as Jericho character anymore. You know, he's kind of an elder statesman. It seems like you kind of have that elder statesman mentality with still kind of, I don't want to say rookie, but still kind of a little bit newer, right?
Absolutely.
Newer of a performer, but
Definitely.
kind of with an old soul kind of mind. And you attribute that to your military, you said. So guys probably look up to you too, right? I mean, it's
it's funny. I have guys come up to me all the time and they ask me questions, and I've had guys, thought that I was in the business for 10 plus years, and and I have to tell them like I remember one show I got announced, and I want to say it was my first Titan show, and they announced me of having 10 years of experience in the business, and I thought that was kind of an odd thing for the announcer to announce me to have 10 years in the business or whatever. But then I went up to him after, and I was like, "You do know I've only been in this for a year, right?" And he was like, "No fucking way." Excuse my language again, but he's like, "No way." He's like, "It doesn't seem." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going right now. I'm going on year 3, and I still tread the line of the green and getting to that point where I'm not a vet. I don't consider anybody a vet in this business until they're in here. I'm sorry. I don't consider guys 3 years in vets. I don't consider guys 5 years in this business vets. I consider guys in here 7, 8, 9, 10 years vets. Those are guys who's been through the ringer. I know guys who've done this for 5 years, and I've been more places too. So, and that's no disrespect to them at all. It's just I look at it as a certain line of respect to the actual vets of this business. And, I can't call Homicide a vet and then say I'm in the same category as him as a vet, and I'm only 3 years into this. So, I'm always learning, and I'm always trying to learn from guys, and I tread the line, because when I am going up against veteran guys, when I do want to have some more input in it, I respect that they know more than me, and they do things for certain ways, and everything's calculated a certain way, and they vision it, and I see it from their aspect. And when I notice it that way, it helps me out in turn for if I'm working a guy that's been in the business just as long as me or even younger than me. And, I just always try to just keep going and learn as much as I can. I mean, I definitely would say, I have an old soul for this. I'm sorry. I'm a 90s and 80s wrestler guy. I love all that stuff back in the day.
Yeah, but you were before the show went live, you and I were talking, and you were listing names and like people you grew up watching, and you were listing people that were even kind of at the tail end of their careers as you were coming into the business, or as a fan, and you were still watching them, so, the Ricky Steamboats, I'll mention him, by the mid 90s, he was already kind of starting to slow down a little bit. Ric Flair, that guy, I swear that guy, I believe he just went and went and went.
I think he just actually said he wants to have one more match too, not too long ago. I know he did the last one with Jay Lethal, but I could have sworn I seen him somewhere say he wants one more out there. Guy, he's never gonna stop wrestling, and I love that about him.
Yeah, but how many Blockz? Sorry to cut you off for a second, but how many times do you see it in pro wrestling? We get guys who will turn around and say, "Oh, I'm gonna retire," and then 5 years later, all of a sudden, look who came back. I mean, this is like I laughed on now, because you get guys like John Cena who say, "Oh, the end of December, I'm done. That's it. You're never gonna see me in the ring again." I want to sit here sometimes when they say that and go, I call bull on that, because we've seen it constantly where these guys sit there and say, "Oh, I'm retired. I'm not an in-ring competitor anymore." And then 5 years later, it's, well, guess who's number 25 in the Royal Rumble?
I mean, only thing I can attribute to this is professional wrestling. When you're a wrestler or you have any part in this business, as you guys know, it's a drug. It's a drug a good drug that you just can't get out, or that feeling, that adrenaline feeling, you can't get anywhere else. I've been in the military. I've played, sports, and being inside that squared circle is an adrenaline rush that I've never had in my life anywhere else, and anything else I've done. And there's times where I'm not booked a weekend, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh man, I gotta work. I gotta go to some show because I just don't feel right. But with guys like like that, you know, it's hard to walk away from this business when this is all your life's been for forever. You know, somebody like Cena, you know, that says he's walking away ruining the business and stuff like that. You know, I know, you know, what he's doing and, you know, the whole angle, whatever. But, you know, I believe this is why I'm enjoying this run of Cena's, because I do believe in December is going to be the last time he ever steps in the ring as far as competitor wise. You know, other guys have said that in the past, but they've stepped in the ring and they've given him one more shot. He's gotten everything he's wanted from this business and then some. I really believe he's satisfied and fulfilled with being in ring. Not to say that he's done with professional wrestling, but as far as being in the ring, I can definitely see him that being his last time. You know, another Austin was another one.
Yeah.
But I feel like Austin didn't go out on his own terms. Austin was forced out. So that match was with KO that happened at Mania. Granted, it surprised everybody how freaking well it went, but he went out on his own terms, and I can guarantee we'll probably never see Austin back in the ring again. He got it out where he needed to on his way out.
Exactly. I'm actually, you know, we'll bring up Cena quickly. I'm going to put you and Jeff both in the spot right now. But actually, I'm going to ask you this first, Blockz, since you're the wrestler. If you had the pencil, let's say we're in December already, it's Cena's last show, who do you have be his final opponent?
I'm going to say you're going to have to put the greatest of all time out going up against the modern day greatest of all time, Roman Reigns. I can only say that because, I mean, I kind of have a feeling it's going to be Cody. But if he's going out with the title the way that he wants it to be, Cody's the man to go against. If it's to save the WWE from him ruining and taking that last title, it's got to be Roman, because, I mean, passing the torch down, I can only see him, even though Roman is kind of getting towards that, what John Cena is now-ish, not more so, you know, the end of his career, but going into that Hollywood aspect of his career. But I don't feel like Roman ever got the torch passed to him the right way. He took it. Roman never was given the torch. He took the torch. And he ran with it at a time that WWE needed him and Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. They needed those guys. And Roman and Seth Rollins took the ball and they've ran with it without having guys like The Rock or, you know, Cena pass them the torch, or Triple H passing them the torch. They took it and they ran with it. So that's personally my way that I would love to see it. I think it would be a phenomenal match, Roman and Cena, his final match. But I mean, that's a good question, man. That's a good question. That's a good one.
Jeff, what about you? If you had the pencil.
Well, I'd love to see him and Cody one more time. I think Cena wins, and then it turns Cody heel. It allows Cody to turn heel. And I think we're gearing up for a Cody heel run. You hear it in his promos lately. Yep. You see it in his work lately. Since the Royal Rumble, you've just seen these like little, and Blockz, you see it probably much better than I ever could. But like as a fan, you're starting to see these little like heelish moves he's doing. Like he's like a little bit heavy on the weapons when he was in that ladder match with KO, and I think he could actually make a pretty good heel run. I'm really afraid they're going to put it on Logan Paul.
Oh my God!
Because of the money.
Yeah.
And if you want to have like a corporate champion, right, after John Cena, and you want to like the corporate champion, who better than Logan Paul, who's one of your biggest sponsors right now, and who would actually work with The Rock on a corporate kind of level, right, Blockz?
Yeah, you're definitely, yeah.
And this is where kind of wrestling, for me, I've been a wrestling fan for 40 years, so you're right there with me. You've seen it. Like the names may change and the players may change, but the storylines
Always remain the same.
They repeat themselves, and that's what just makes it so entertaining, is to see how they tell the same story and still get me to mark out and still get me to fall in love all over again, you know.
Yep.
But they do it in such a way, maybe with such little, little nuances, little differences, and you were mentioning you watched 10 Ricky Steamboat matches, and for inspiration. So you're going to bring that forth this Friday with you to the ring, So again, little nuances, but you're carrying forth to the next generation somebody that was from 3 generations ago of wrestling fans. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. 100.
So,
And to add real quick, John, to add to your point, Jeff, with the Cody, with the little bit of heelish things that he's starting to do, if you notice that, but you do also notice that Cena's little heelish are becoming more little babyish.
Yeah, and you know how I can tell is like Cena. First off, Cena's getting cheered out the building louder than ever, and Cody, you don't dress like the way Cody dresses as a face. You don't show up in a 3-piece suit as a face. I'm sorry, the face never wears a suit. Dusty Rhodes never wore a suit. Ricky Steamboat, Hulk Hogan, they never wore suits, right?
Nah, it's true, man. It's true.
So Cody's already, and he's got that blonde hair. He already looks like a heel. He's already got a heel look.
I'm actually excited with it, if and when they do pull that heelish trigger for Cody, because I know he's going to be phenomenal with it. I mean, we've had little pieces of him on the Indies being a heel, him in AEW being a heel at times, but I feel like this is going to be his best. I think everybody thinking him coming back to WWE, having those 2 years to get that title from Roman, and he got at the stretch. I don't even think we scratched the surface on how well he's going to be once he turns heel. I mean, he's going.
I was there at the Royal Rumble in Tampa when he won the second year, and that crowd was so loud for him. I very rarely heard a pop that loud, but he could probably he's developed his mic work, and he had to go away for a while, to develop himself.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think if given the chance, he could make a really good heel. What about you? What do you like working better as? Do you like working better as a heel or a face?
I love being a heel. If I can be honest.
Why does everybody say that? Is it just more fun for you guys, or?
I guess it's because it's the complete opposite of who I am.
Yeah, you're the all-American hero, like on paper, a military man.
Yeah, and then I get to be that aggressive Kurt Angle, mouthpiece, ECW, ruthless. I'm gonna whip everybody's, So, I love being heel because you can you get to do a lot more things you can't do as a baby face. The one thing I will say that a lot of promoters have an issue with is no matter if I'm babyface or heel, my reaction to the crowd is my reaction to the crowd. If I'm a babyface, I'm a babyface for your company. The crowd, I'm not a babyface with. I do what I do out there. I don't pander to the crowd as a heel, but if the crowd is on my side, that means they respect what they got going and they're watching in that ring. And I'm going to utilize that to my advantage. Roman Reigns does it. John Cena's doing it right now. Chris Jericho has done it. All the greats have done it. When you're that good, the crowd respects you that much more. So whether I'm a babyface or a heel, whatever reaction that crowd gives me, I'm always going to embrace that, and I'm always going to utilize that, whether it's in a babyface aspect or if it's in a heel aspect. And that brings me heat every now and again with promoters and that, I do explain to them, I'm not a babyface, I'm not a heel, I'm not a tweener, I'm Blockz. That's it. Yeah. You want me to be the heel? I'm going to go out there, I'm going to give you the heelish shit ever. But if the crowd respects it, I can't control their emotions. And I've been at crowds where I've flipped off crowds and they've ate it up even more. So what am I supposed to do to a crowd that's eating up me flipping them off? I'm going to embrace them and then enjoy them with it. So, it's things that I'm still learning along the way. Still things that I'm trying to walk my own path, but also, not cause too much of a ruckus as I'm doing it. I cause enough ruckus as it is enough. I stormed onto this business 3 years ago, making no name for myself. Nobody knew who I was 3 years ago. 3 years later, I'm known in about 8 different states, got fans all over. And like I tell everybody, show up, show out, hustle it out. If you don't got the hustle to grind for this, I'm gonna eat you alive. And that just shows with me, as John said, this is not a gimmick. Blockz isn't a gimmick. I've been literally Blockz since the age of 13 years old. That's what I've been going by. And there was no other name that I was going to join this business in being. And what you see is what you get. I'm humble, but if I have to cross that line, I definitely will. And, other than that, have fun. I like to have fun.
I just go back for 1 second with the Cena final opponent, because I actually have a name that nobody's even mentioned. And I agree with what you guys are saying, with Roman and everything. But one thing we've seen with this whole John Cena heel run so far, look at all of his opponents. It's been the greatest hits. Orton, Punk. We're getting Cody again at SummerSlam. I have one that I think would be perfect because we have not seen him work with an up-and-comer. And Blockz, one thing I'm very big on is creating that next crop of your main eventers.
Oh, absolutely.
I have one name who I think would be perfect to be in that position to retire, to be the one sitting and say, well, I was one who put Cena into retirement. Braun Breaker.
So, Blockz, what you missed tonight was right before Raw went on, or right as Raw was coming on, right before you signed on with us. Braun pulled a move where he interrupted his own stablemate, Seth Rollins, and took the mic literally right from his hand and started cutting a promo. So it's funny you say that, John, because I could see a scenario where Braun steals the briefcase, right, Blockz? Or wins it now, or gets that case from Heyman and cashes it in. And then we get, that Cena putting Braun over. And Braun's the future of the business, like on the WWE side of things.
Absolutely.
Somebody says, so some of our fans saying Jacob Fatu. There's another one that, like, I love watching him work any day of the week.
Oh, I love watching Jacob work. I've worked on cards with Jacob. I've hung out with Jacob. He's a great guy. I will say I don't see Jacob being that guy just yet to be put in that spot. Not saying that he's not ready, because I'm guaranteed you put him out there, he's gonna go all gas, no brakes, like he says. But Braun Breaker is definitely an interesting choice. I never thought of Braun as could be that guy. But as you stated, and one thing I've always loved about Cena is Cena's always been, as much as he's saying he's going to ruin the business, he's always been a business first guy. And he's always done that, whether it was KO or anybody that came from NXT that he's given a shot to run up with and show them what they had. AJ Styles, when they had their little feud, even though AJ Styles was established, he wasn't established to the certain WWE fans. And I feel like John Cena put him on the map where it showed off who AJ Styles was. And Braun Breaker's a good choice. Good stuff, John. I like that choice. I may have to take Roman back out of there. I don't know if Roman's gonna be that guy.
Blockz. I'm just gonna say this much right now because we're about to wrap up the interview here in a few minutes. I've always been a fan of yours. I've always been I'm just gonna say this, and if I get heat with other podcasters, I'm not gonna apologize. I've been one of the few podcasters within the indie podcasting world to give you your flowers, I feel.
I agree with you 100%. I always appreciate that, man. Sometimes I feel like you do it a little too much, but I appreciate it. That means, I'm doing something to make you see that. So I definitely appreciate that. And, I will agree. That's why whenever me and you speak, anytime you need me on, it don't matter if somebody cancels last minute, I'm always here for you, bro. You know that.
I appreciate that a lot. One last question I got for you before we wrap things up here. Obviously, you've made a name for yourself in Titan. You've made a name for yourself, obviously, with getting traded from Gino Caruso and ECPW. Are there other promotions, either in the New Jersey area or outside, that you have your eyes on of, okay, I want to be in that promotion one day?
Oh yeah, there's a few promotions in Connecticut. I'm actually looking forward to debuting very soon. That one I'm gonna keep on the hush for right now because that one's still in the works. But you got places that's like BCW. You know, I want to get up in there so badly because there's a group of young guys that's hungry and I feel like I could work magic with damn near all of those guys. There's NYWC that I got to get down to. Victory Pro Wrestling that I want to get a part of. You know, these are all places that I've been saying for a while that I've been wanting to get a part of, and because of certain life situations, I haven't been able to make certain shows there. But you know, it's only a matter of time before I show up and I cause a ruckus. You know, there's the Win, you know, by the Maximos, the SAT that runs that promotion. MLW is a big one that I want to, you know, get into and put my feet in the waters there and show that I can stand with those guys, because I know showing them I can stand there is going to put me into better positions to get onto spots like TNA, AEW, WWE. You know what I mean? I'm not in this for a rush to get to WWE. I'm in this to enjoy my time, enjoy the journey, and make everybody know when they watch me and, you know, they see me on the podcast, they see I'm a, you know, humble guy and, you know, I love what I do. But when they see me in that ring, they know the switch turns on and you got a pit bull that's ready to take out whoever's in front of him, you know, so that way he can get to the top. You know, I've made a lot of friends in this business, but I've always came for one goal, and that's to be the top guy in this business. And hopefully, you know, I get there one day, or I'm gonna die trying at least.
You definitely will. I definitely have faith in that. Jeff, do you have any final questions for Blockz?
Blockz, it's been a pleasure to just talk wrestling with you, especially some of the old school stuff we were talking about before. I wish you the best of luck. Again, thank you for your service. I hope this weekend goes well for you. I hope you have a great showing. And we look forward to having you back on, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Oh, absolutely. And I appreciate you guys for having me on. Always willing whenever you guys need. Like I said, I'm here for you guys whenever. I'm just going to do a quick little cheap pop. July 11th, come
Please
out.
do.
Titans Championship Wrestling, American Spirit. It's going to be a banger. It's a Blockz edition. Everybody's calling it American Spirit Blockz edition. I'm calling this the Blockz Extravaganza because all weekend we'll be having fun. So come out if you're in the area. It's First Responders Night. You're going to see the heavyweight champ Anthony Gangone, middleweight champ Mike Donovan, Funhouse champ Jeff Noyes, tag team champs may be in the building. You never know. It doesn't matter because Blockz and the Deadly Sins were the greatest tag team champions of all time in Titan Championship Wrestling. But needless to say, they may be on hand. And you get ever Blockz versus the Zombie King, Junior Flow. Long time coming. So it's going to be fun. Appreciate you gentlemen for having me on. It's always a blast. I mean, hell, you guys are awesome dudes, man. Appreciate you guys, for real.
Thanks, Blockz.
Absolutely.
Love's all on this side. Love's all on this side of the table here, brother.
Guys, again, one more time, just going to throw the poster up there one more time. Obviously, you guys know American Spirit, the Blockz edition, Friday, July 11th. All the information is right there. You don't want to miss it. Blockz, again, thank you so much for coming on with us. I appreciate it a lot. Guys, catch us live tomorrow night for our regular scheduled show with commentator, and I guess you can call him now sort of one of the tallest ring announcers out there. Your friend and our friend, the one and only Miss Billy Ann Wolf, will be on with Jeff and I tomorrow. This week we also have Black Rose joining us. Ashley Stevie from Kaiju Pro Wrestling will be on with us. Absolute Alvin Alvarez will be on with us. We're also going to have on AJ Stevens, who's a ring announcer from upstate New York. He'll be on with us. Sean Jacobs, who's the commentator for TIW, will be on with us. And so much more. Guys, again, subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitch. You can get this in a podcast version wherever you get your podcasts. We're on all of them right now. Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Odyssey, you name it, we're there. Find us, subscribe to us on there. We are out of here. Again, for Blockz and Jeff, I'm John. We'll catch you guys next time.
Peace.